just trying to find out what happened.
Okay, wasn't you just talking to her? Can she provide all them information to you?
Well, let me ask you this. I was just talking to her. What if she told me that you beat the out of her and you jumped on top of her and started punching her in the face? Should I just go ahead and take that as...
but don't you know...
It's your side of the story. Give your side.
All these prescriptions, but you want to be great. Being great is really pushing the envelope. You know what I'm saying?
Gervonta "Tank" Davis has finally broken his silence following reports of his arrest and the shocking cancellation of the Jake Paul fight. Davis is now facing a civil lawsuit alleging multiple serious domestic violence incidents. His camp and longtime coach have issued only brief statements, while Jake Paul's November 14th mega event now hangs in limbo as promoters launch a full investigation.
This is a lightweight. So, by all means, if they make a few quid and nobody gets hurt, then great. But I certainly wouldn't be paying a penny to watch it. I think it's just absolutely ridiculous, farcical. Who wants to watch an exhibition? Gervonta Davis is in his prime years. Why is he wasting his time? Why is he not having a rematch with the fella he got a draw with? Why is he not fighting? Why is he not going up a weight and fighting Lopez and Garcia's and them fighters? Why is he fighting Jake Paul in an exhibition? I get the money's great, but he's in the prime years. This is his best year. This is where he can become... Maybe you don't want to be an all-time great. Maybe you don't want to do all that stuff. Maybe you just want to...
According to documents filed in Miami-Dade County, the civil suit accuses Davis of battery, aggravated battery, false imprisonment, kidnapping, and intentional infliction of emotional distress. These are explosive allegations that could have major consequences for both his legal status and boxing career. As of now, this remains a civil action. No new criminal charges have been filed in connection to the complaint.
WBC lightweight world champion Gervonta "Tank" Davis was arrested earlier this week for a closed fist slapping his daughter's mother. What's a closed fist slap? Is it like this? Bro, you can't be closed fist slapping women. You can't be slapping women at all. But don't you know your hand is like Thor's hammer? Bro, you can go to jail for even flicking somebody, man. Don't you got a fight coming up? Or are you trying to ruin your career?
So far, Davis hasn't issued a full public statement explaining his side of the story. His coach offered a short update, saying Davis is doing great and that they're still trying to understand the situation. The response seems designed to keep the boxer out of the media storm while his legal and promotional teams handle the details. Meanwhile, Jake Paul's promotion, Most Valuable Promotions, confirmed they've begun an internal investigation. Their statement condemned all forms of violence and said they would review the situation before deciding on next steps. Technically, the fight remains on the schedule, but insiders now believe the November 14th event is likely cancelled, not postponed. Boxing journalist Dame Mara posted on X, "I'm hearing it's being postponed. Not sure on the date, but I'm about 80% certain the November 14th event is off." Originally planned for Atlanta's State Farm Arena, the fight was later moved to Miami. The matchup promised viral promotion, mainstream attention, and an unlikely collision between a YouTube star and a world champion boxer.
In the making, when a fairly novice Jake Paul made a wish list of future opponents, and right in the middle of that list was Gervonta "Tank" Davis. Many laughed at the time, and some still can't believe we're here. But these two young men are the face of boxing for Gen Z and Gen Alpha. They are the two biggest boxers in America, and they are putting it all on the line. One has the speed, the skill, the accuracy, and the one-punch knockout power. The other has the size, the force, and the unbreakable confidence to make this must-see Netflix. The size difference is obvious.
The rules alone had fans buzzing. Davis, a natural lightweight who fights around 135 to 140 pounds, was set to face Paul at a 195 pounds limit using 12-ounce gloves. Davis openly questioned the weight gap and spectacle-driven setup, but even skeptics admitted the event could have been one of the year's biggest draws.
I want to watch is Tank Davis versus Jake Paul. I want Tank Davis to knock his block off. I'm sick of the Paul brothers, both of them. I can't stand either one of them. And I know I'll get pounded with emails. You're just jealous. No, I'm not jealous of them. I could care less how much money they make. I don't like their attitude. don't like the way they conduct themselves. I don't like the way they think. You know.
Across social media, many fans have criticized Davis, accusing him of chasing money over legacy, opting for Jake Paul instead of top-tier opponents like Shakur Stevenson or Teofimo Lopez. They claim this fight was more about pay-per-view numbers than professional challenge.
We wouldn't go ever fight no Shakur Stevenson, no Keyshawn Davis, no Teofimo Lopez, no none of them dudes. You know what I'm talking about? We gotta think and look at Tank Davis's whole career. He done made some bread, but at the end of the day, all that bread that he made, when it's all said and done, he ain't gonna get no respect from his peers, because we gonna look down his resume and we gonna be like, he was trash, he was some trash, he was some trash, he was all right, but he was never like that. He was okay. He was some trash, he was some trash. He ain't.
Originally, Davis was expected to rematch Lamont Roach after their first fight ended in a controversial majority draw. That bout could have solidified his standing among elite fighters. But when the Jake Paul opportunity appeared, with a reported $50 million payday and massive global exposure, his team shifted focus. Analysts like Stephen A. Smith have noted that modern boxing often prioritizes spectacle over legacy, and Davis's move perfectly illustrates that trend. For Tank, this fight represented not just a paycheck, but access to a global audience far beyond traditional boxing fans.
He's in a division where he's got killers all in his division. You know, Shakur, Haney, who's 147. You know, you look at Teo, for example, Keyshawn, and then you choose to fight someone like Paul. Surely that's a concern when you do look at it like that.
Yeah, but again, it's the well-being. If you can get a huge amount of money to fight someone who's never boxed really before, you're going to do it. You know, Floyd Mayweather boxed Logan Paul with a huge weight disparity.
He was done by then. He was done. Like, this is an active world champion.
But it's the well-being.
Yeah.
And that's the truth. You know, when it comes down to it. It's just like Conor McGregor fighting Floyd Mayweather. Two completely different sports. Was the biggest pay-per-view in recent times, wasn't it? Maybe if ever.
Those are like different comparisons, though, if you think about it. Do you not like?
Yeah, but the sport's in a wild place, isn't it? That's just, like, I'm just like the reality of where we are, you know. And I can't really say much when we're talking about Jake Paul fighting Anthony Joshua at the same time. You know.
Do you think Tank should get stripped of his title?
Yeah, I think anyone who, just in general, doesn't defend their title to do something else should get stripped, because it shouldn't hold the belts up. You know, in any, like, I think that should be the reality in anything. You know, if you're not going to defend your belts, or you're not defending, sometimes there's the rules. Obviously, if you fight for a belt at a higher weight, you can retain the belt until there. But if you're not, don't have intention of defending the belts, you shouldn't hold the belts up. People should get the opportunity to fight for them.
What happened with the failed negotiations between AJ and Jake Paul?
I think anything's still possible. That was always discussed for next year. You know, this fight's November, early part of next year.
Former world champion Carl Froch was far less forgiving, calling the situation an absolute joke. Froch revealed that Jake Paul was reportedly close to finalizing a fight with heavyweight icon Anthony Joshua before pivoting to Davis, someone half his size. He accused Paul of chasing shock value instead of real danger, saying the matchup turns boxing into a sideshow.
Mega money, so.
But the fight against Jake Paul ain't going to happen anyway. It ain't going to happen. We can all believe it. Jake Paul.
Eddie Hearn said it's 99% done.
Because you know what? Jake Paul's done a great job in hustling Eddie. Yeah. He's going to get, so either Eddie's in on it or he's like this young man hustling. Yeah. And so the kids kidded the kidders.
Well, listen, we've had a chat, we've caught up, we'll have another chat as well in a...
I'm going to do some sunbathing, man.
Days, bit of sunbathing, top up the town.
Yes, I baby.
As well.
Black is the number.
Let us know in the comments below who you think wins the fight and what Anthony Joshua should be doing next. Do you agree with us, do you disagree with us? Let us know in the comments below. This has been another episode of Froch on Fighting. We've got the main man here, Johnny Nelson, a.k.a.
Blickman.
We'll see. He said it, not me. We'll see you on the next episode. Take care. Just here at Los Naranjos in Viva, España, and I found out that Gervonta Davis is now fighting Jake Paul. So Jake Paul was supposed to be fighting AJ. Eddie Hearn announced 99% done, which we've just spoke about. What next for AJ? Potentially Jake Paul. But it now looks like that Jake Paul is fighting one of Anthony Joshua's legs. He's fighting Gervonta Davis, somebody who's a quarter of his size. I don't even know what's going on. Has Eddie Hearn been
On the other side, Nakisa Bidarian, co-founder of Most Valuable Promotions, defended the matchup. He claimed the weight difference wouldn't decide the fight, pointing out that Paul only needed the higher limit due to inexperience. Bidarian also revealed that this bout had been discussed long before it became possible, only after a planned Canelo-Alvarez fight fell apart.
Jake and Tank are going to happen November 14th.
Whatever weight they want, man, they're talking about it, and whatever it is, it's going to be a definitive outcome. People can talk about pro, exhibition. We're going to make sure this is as real as it's real.
Why was it, just out of curiosity, why is it not a professional bout and why is it an exhibition? Because I'm sure Jake would have taken the professional bout.
Nothing's been communicated as yet in terms of what it is, right? Similar to, if you remember with Paul Tyson, when we announced it, we didn't have the weight, we didn't have the rules, particularly in terms of the number of rounds, the minutes, the gloves. It's going to be the same thing here.
Gotcha. Can you just offer us any insight as to how these negotiations went? The reason I ask is because I remember back in March, I was at Tank's fight, and after his fight in his press conference, he was asked, next opponent. He said, well, my next opponent might have been in my locker room tonight, and people asked him, was it Jake? He made reference, he made allusion to. Has this been an ongoing thing, and has it ever, been at a point where it wasn't going to happen and came back, or was this always the plan?
Always been the plan for Jake to fight Tank once Canelo didn't happen. And to Tank's credit, he's a real bad dude, and he's been calling out Jake for 3 years. And people, it's funny how now they're saying size matters, Jake is big, when for so long it's been Tank would kill Jake Paul. And now you get to see that.
Bidarian emphasized that despite the size gap, Davis's decade-long pro experience and technical skill give him a clear advantage. Davis has collected world titles, built a nearly flawless record, and earned a reputation as one of boxing's most explosive finishers. Jake Paul, meanwhile, is still relatively new and hasn't faced anyone of Davis's caliber.
This is obvious, but so is the skill and experience difference. One man has been doing this for 23 years, since the age of 7. The other picked up the sport 5 years ago and has virtually no amateur experience. So the size difference is what makes this plausible. The king of the jungle here is Tank Davis. He is the lion taking on the young elephant that is Jake Paul. The lion is looking at me like he's about to eat me. The lion is fast, he's fierce, and he's fatal when he strikes. But the young elephant is big, powerful, and hard to knock down. And come Friday, November 14th, the jungle will be set in tropical Miami, Florida, and the world will be watching live on.
Podcast host Joe Rogan added his perspective, crediting Jake for bringing younger audiences to boxing but questioning whether he's truly ready for a fighter in his prime. Rogan noted that Paul's biggest wins came against opponents who were retired or past their best days, while Davis remains an elite, active champion. No fans or followers can take punches for you, Rogan warned, predicting that this would be Jake's first real test against a top-tier boxer.
10 fights, what if Jake Paul knocks one of them out? What if you get a guy that, hasn't been tested and maybe has some promise and maybe gets wrapped up in the hype and maybe gets a little nervous and this is his first chance at a big show and Jake Paul can crack.
Yeah.
100%. That knockout of Tyron Woodley is legit as fuck. He can crack.
But Eddie's point in that interview, and I think the point that just about every boxing aficionado would say, is that Tyrone...
Two-division world champion Paulie Malignaggi admitted the matchup surprised him completely. While Paul has faced unconventional opponents before, choosing a lightweight like Davis still shocked him. Malignaggi praised Davis's career and skill set, reminding fans that despite the controversy, Gervonta's accomplishments have already cemented his place among boxing's elite.
More to lose because he's the bona fide world champion. I don't care if he's much smaller. I think Jake Paul has sort of plateaued as far as where his boxing is concerned. It's rather low level. Yeah. He's big, he's physical, he's strong, he can hit. So there is that risk. Davis, at lightweight, you're in a moment where it's too physical for you. You can clinch. Against the heavyweight, where you clinching? You ain't getting out of that corner just clinching anymore if you run out of space. You know what I mean? So it's interesting. But Davis, listen. There's a lot of talking points that I'm sure we'll get into when this gets closer to the fight. Davis can still punch at lightweight. Can he drop a heavyweight? there's a lot to gain there, right? If Davis knocks
the answer is yes.
If Davis drops Jake on his ass, as much as Davis is the one with more to lose, it's still a highlight moment.
A visual that will stay forever.
Yeah, but if you get dropped, even if you're smaller, you're still a world champion, multiple weight classes. If you get dropped, what's the look? What's the feel? On the inside, as boxers, me and Chris Algieri, the champ, even you, Jim, you have fight experience, so we know that the risk is a big guy that big hits you. You're probably going down if you're a small guy if he hits you clean. So we know the risk, but how does it look to the public eye who don't understand that? You know what I mean? The public. So there is a lot to lose, though. There's a bit to gain. I wouldn't necessarily have an issue with this had Davis's career arc been one that benefited boxing. Davis was manufactured and put into a position where he's supposed to benefit boxing, and I don't think he has. I think he's hurt boxing. So by giving him this reward, that's my problem. Why are we watching this? Why don't you make him earn his spot?
A former sparring partner of Jake Paul offered a more brutal take, saying that Davis's punching power is on a completely different level. He argued that Jake's past knockouts came against fighters who couldn't hurt him back, but Tank's power damages, not just scores. According to him, Paul will realize too late that he's entered a level far beyond his experience.
Man, like every single time, people said that Jake would get finished or he would lose a fight. He obviously proved everybody wrong, but I genuinely believe this time, I think that, with Gervonta's boxing IQ and him having Jake come down a little bit in weight, I think Gervonta will beat him, honestly. I think Gervonta will hurt him. I think he'll just use IQ. He'll tire him out a little bit. And, I think he'll land. Gervonta knows how to touch his opponents. But it's interesting because when Floyd fought Logan, the size really, really made a big, impact. And you saw Floyd struggle, against a big, Ohio corn-fed, wrestling strong dude. And, I've sparred Jake and Logan before, and, they train hard.
You're picking Tank by knockout?
Look, I sparred them years ago.
UFC legend Daniel Cormier added balance to the debate, acknowledging that Jake's recent Netflix fight with Mike Tyson helped redefine how combat sports reach mainstream audiences. He credited Paul's discipline and willingness to take risks, saying that even if critics mock him, Jake's contribution to modernizing boxing can't be ignored.
Woodley, twice. Big numbers. Jake Paul fought against Tommy Fury. Big numbers. Jake Paul, who I believe, and I have told you guys this time and time again, he's much better than people give him credit for. One, Jake Paul is not an amateur fighter, like some try to say. Jake Paul has money, so Jake Paul is getting trained by the best boxing coaches that money can buy. He's full-time boxing. There are a lot of people that say he may do some other stuff. I don't know who he was going to fight that was saying that he was juiced up and he was ignoring him. Or was it Logan Paul? One of them. But at the end of the day, this kid's training to be the best fighter in the world, or the best as he can be, and he understands what losing would do to the perception of who he is in fighting. We were yelling so much about him fighting someone. Fight somebody your size. Fight somebody, a real boxer. Stop fighting MMA guys. There were so many things that people were mad about in regards to his level of competition and the people he was competing against. Well, today we learned that Jake Paul has his next opponent. His next opponent is by far the most credentialed guy.
So what do you think? Is the Jake Paul versus Gervonta Davis fight falling apart due to legal trouble, or was this all a calculated business play? Drop your thoughts below.